Be a hole that's this big because that's where your pot is. Your burlap is probably like in here. So that's how they're going to dig that hole. We are going to use the premium mulch that has fallen down here. We usually go 2/3 natural soil to 1/3 mulch. Why 2/3 to 1/3? These trees got to get used to living where you live. We all have crappy soil, unfortunately. It's just kind of where we are at. Some of us have DG, crushed granite. Some of us have clay that just holds and sucks in that moisture all the time. So back to the kind of the watering thing, if you have a clay area, know that you're not going to be watering as often as folks that have the DG and more porous area because they have much better drainage. If you have clay, you're going to have to check on that tree. Always check before you water because your soil is going to let you know whether you actually need water or not. Yes, ma'am?
If you guys dig a hole or plant, do you also do the water test for drainage?
Her question was, do we do water tests on drainage? No, that's kind of your responsibility, but the guys will let you know what they kind of see, and when they leave, they'll tell you how they expect you to water. So they'll let you know how you're going to kind of water that. With the planting and delivering of your tree, you're going to get a 2-year 50/50 warranty on the plant materials, and then we go halves on the cost. We go halves on the cost of the tree, and then the labor we will replant them for free. That being said, we are on call, basically. If you start seeing weird things, and again, it's usually a water issue, just trying to find that right spot. Give us a call, take pictures, bring them in. We're going to troubleshoot, try to figure out what's going on. We don't want to lose a tree any more than you guys do. So we're here to help you, and we want you to succeed. So when they plant, they'll do the mulch. We're going to fertilize. We're going to do the root and grow treatment, which is a transplant and shock reducer. It also kind of catches on to the hair roots and gets them kind of stimulated and moving. They're going to fertilize with our all-purpose fertilizer. Ken actually came up with this a long time ago. It really, really works. I'm a transplant about 3 years ago, and I've been using this ever since, and it's a great product.
744?
744. You're going to fertilize your evergreens 4 times a year. And one of the things we like to say is remember your holidays. We like to fertilize Easter, 4th of July, Halloween, and New Year's. So evergreens get the 4 times a year. Your deciduous trees, fruit trees, all those 3. So you're going to skip that New Year's on that.
Are you using that plant food for the fertilizer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We use that plant food for the fertilizer. Yeah. A healthy tree is going to be a tree that is not stressed. So we're watering correctly, we're feeding correctly. The healthier the tree is, the less likely insects are going to invade that tree. Doing all these things on a regular basis are going to keep your trees healthy. If they do get infected, there are ways to fix that problem. So what you're looking for with the pine bark beetle, you are looking for holes in the bark. Sometimes, usually your trees will start dying from the top down. But you will see signs, you'll see globs of sap all over. Sometimes it'll actually run a little bit, depending on the type of year that they get attacked. So kind of keep an eye out for that. We always say prevention is worth its weight in gold. Our plant protector tree and shrub drench is how you're going to protect your evergreens from bark beetle, pinyon pine scale. This will take care of that. Mites, aphids, you put it on once a year. And in the springtime is the best time to put this on because it's the time when your trees are really intaking those nutrients up. This is one of the few products that you're actually going to pour along the trunk of your tree. Usually we're going to tell you you need to find your drip line and that's where you're going to put stuff. This actually goes on the trunk of the tree. One of the things that I tell people to do, if you have not had any moisture or your ground is really dry, you will want to water that area around the trunk of your tree pretty well. Because if you have really dry soil, when you pour water, the ground kind of sucks it out and it won't go up your tree. So you want that kind of moist. So water, the night before, the day before, and then use your drench the next day, or wait till after it rains and then put this on. You usually want to wait 24 hours, or if you know it's going to rain within 24 hours, don't put this on. It really needs to kind of soak in for 24 hours before it gets wet again. Okay? Yes, ma'am?
So you're saying pour it right on the bark around?
You're going to pour it around the bottom of the tree,
okay.
on the trunk of the tree.
How far away from the trunk itself?
You're going to go about this far.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going to mix it up in a 5-gallon bucket and just pour it around there.
I'm sorry,
And
I'm
how much
confused.
do
You said,
put down?
So instructions are on the back, but basically it's an ounce per inch of, I think it's circumference. So you're going to measure your tree, and then it's an ounce in the 5-gallon bucket of water.
I feel like I heard two things, on the trunk or around the trunk?
Around the trunk.
Around
it won't hurt it if you put it on the trunk.
Okay.
I mean, usually if you just do the first foot or so, it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
It's systemic.
It's a systemic. This is actually the imidacloprid. This is the stuff that actually kills the bees. But we're putting it on a pine tree. Pine trees don't have flowers, so you're safe to use it. We're very careful with what we use this on. So we don't put it on trees that have flowers, or we put it on after they're done flowering.
Will that work if it's already got sap, like it's already sick? Is it gonna correct that, or is it just a preventive?
So her question was, will this help if you already have it? Yes. And it also depends on how, if your tree is already turning brown halfway down, probably not. If the tree is green and you're just seeing those sap nodules, you're probably going to save it. So it just kind of depends on how far your tree is, how far gone it is.
Does this beetle affect other trees aside from evergreens?
So the pine bark, her question was, does it affect other trees? It is specifically for conifers. So the pine bark beetle is for pines. There is a spruce one that will take out spruce as well. So we kind of protect them both. The spruce one is not as visible. We don't notice it as much here. In Colorado, there are complete forests that just got wiped out. And it was because of the drought. The trees got stressed and they came through. We were warmer, so if it's really cold, it'll kill the larvae that's in your trees. But we haven't had any really super cold years, so they've stopped dying. So we're helping the trees along.
Another question, how big are these holes?
How big are the holes was the question. So most of the pine, the larvae is less than they're tiny, tiny. So it almost looks like someone took a drill, a small bit drill, and drilled into the tree. And then your clouds of sap, the sap is actually the tree trying to protect itself. So when you see that, the tree is trying to push whatever came in out. So sap is usually kind of a good sign because the tree is protecting itself. But this will help keep the bugs away.
Do you have another conifer? Because I bought one here to put on I think an elm tree. Pretty sure it was an elm. I had holes all over. Kind of looks like woodpecker holes all over.
I don't know if it was this product or not.
Well, it looked like that
Okay.
container. It was out.
Well,
$50.
okay, so we have a private label that says plant protector. And
I bought it here.
yeah, and basically this is our temporary product until our labels are done and we can put it on it. But it's the same product, so it's gonna work.
One other question about the scale that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Are you gonna go over that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Her question was, are junipers affected by bark beetle? No, but there is a borer that will actually get on the branches, and you'll actually just start seeing twigs. It'll look like somebody just went and did this to it. And you'll just see these branches, and it's like, what? And when you actually cut it off, you'll actually see a hole right down the center. So they're eating that tender stuff that's right there in the hole, and that's what does it. Who turned out the lights? So yeah, there are all different kinds of things that hit conifers. Alberta spruce here, he gets spider mites. And you, all of a sudden, you have this beautiful green tree, and the next thing you turn around, you have this big brown spot. And it's usually a circle or pretty close, and it's just dead. And spider mites can hit very quick. They do their damage. They can take out a whole side of a tree. If you use the tree and shrub, that will protect from spider mites. There is also, usually we don't know about them until after the fact. Once we start seeing that brown stuff, this is actually the big guns. This is called 38. This is 38% permethrin, which we use a little bit of permethrin in our Waters all-purpose spray, insect spray, but this is 38%. So we pulled this. Spider mites are really hard to kill. So if you use this prior, hopefully you won't have to use this after the fact. So yes.
So my evergreen I have are pyracantha,
Mhm.
and I have a beautiful wall of 4 of them that
Sure.
I got here. They're gorgeous, but they get spider mites. And because the birds eat the berries
Mhm.
and the bees,
Mhm.
go to the flowers, I use neem oil, but I have to do it every time I see them, so I'm not preventing them, I'm only trying to save my shrubs. So
So her problem is she has pyracantha, which is an evergreen. She gets spider mites in it, and those who are not familiar with pyracantha, it does bloom. So it's in the springtime that it'll bloom, and then it puts out these gorgeous orange berries in the fall. And the birds love them. It's a great place for the birds to hide, shelter, protection, and all that. So she's worried about hurting the birds and that type of thing. Neem oil works really, really well, whether it's just neem oil or the triple action. You have to be careful with both of those because if you spray them at the wrong time of the day, you're going to burn your leaves. So you really want to do it early in the morning or later in the evening. Once your flowers are gone, you could definitely put, you could actually with your berries, because this is a systemic, you would not want to use that, so, yeah. So you are keeping an eye out for your plants, so just kind of keep your eyes out. And I usually tell people that to pay attention to your plants. They'll talk to you. They'll let you know, hey, something's not right, so you'll have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, I had, well, I've got 3 of those Fat Alberts, and clearly, because of the darkness, can see the fine webbing before I ever got any damage. And I can't remember I sprayed with a product or just sprayed with water, it went away. But you know, if just keeping it sprayed every once in a while would get rid of the start of, or once they're there, they're there.
Yeah, her question was if she saw some webbing in her tree. And yeah, if you start seeing webbing, take a hose and spray it down. I mean, that's your first line of defense. It will knock them back. Most insects are soft bodied, so if you could knock them off, they're gonna die. So yeah, if you start seeing webbing, start seeing splotches, I mean, that's a sign that you have issues. We have a wonderful microscope down by the store that we can actually put stuff under and we can look. Spider mites are tiny, you cannot really see them. So take a clipping, we ask that you put it in a plastic bag and bring it in just so we don't affect anything else. But we'll stick it under there and we'll try to figure out what's going on, whether it's spider mites, aphids, or something else.
That you're calling that a fat Albert, is that a Colorado spruce?
Okay, so her question was, I'm calling this a fat Albert. There are several varieties of Colorado spruce. So they started out with the regular Colorado blue. And then they have created different variations of that. So they've actually made this one so it gets a little fatter and not quite as tall. There is a Baccarat spruce that is actually more silver. It is that blue silver color. That is absolutely gorgeous. Just a touch smaller than a regular Colorado blue. Here it's probably going to get in that 30-foot tall and maybe 15 wide. Really pretty tree. There is actually this is a Colorado blue spruce, but it's a dwarf. So they have created it so it stays small. So this is a shrub. He's going to get about 4 to 5 foot tall and 5 foot wide. Really cute little shrub. So, and he is a blue spruce. So if you don't want this big tree, but you want the same color, this is the guy for you.
And they trim well.
They do trim well. When your spruce or your pines get to the size that you want them to get, the size that are on the tags are usually 10, 15-year sizes. Trees don't ever stop growing. So if you wanted to keep that, you start trimming the candles, and it's really easy to do. So,
What I was referring to as the Fat Albert is the Alberta spruce.
Alberta spruce is a totally different
Yeah.
variety.
That's
yes.
the one I had the webbing on.
Yes, and like I said, they are very notorious for spider mites.
And they're slow growing, aren't they?
The Alberta spruces are very, very slow growing, yes.
What about cypress? I don't know if I have, some of the trees I'm trying to figure out what they are, honestly, but I think there's some that are more like,
Yes, her question is about cypress, and I do have some cypress over here.
do they get the pine bark beetles too?
Her question was, did they get pine bark beetle? No, but they do get the borer that the junipers get.
So the tree and
What was
plant.
that? So they get which one is pine beetle?
Okay. So since we're on the subject, we will talk about these guys. So all of these are Arizona different types of Arizona cypress. So this is the most natural, the one that is around here. This is the regular Arizona cypress. This is the blue ice Arizona cypress, which I think is the most amazing color.
Gorgeous.
It's absolutely gorgeous. And then I love this one as well. This is the chaparral Arizona cypress, and it's this nice shape, sagey green chaparral. Yeah, and they will get the tip bore. So if you do start seeing the tips that just get broke, kind of take a look. If there's holes in it, then that's what you have.
And that protector works for that.
Correct, yes, that protector will protect that.
So if I just used the all-in-one yesterday, would you do that at the same time or at a separate time?
The all-in-one,
The fertilizer.
oh, okay.
Would I wait? Can I do that? Or is that too much?
Her question was, does she just fertilize? Should she put the protection on it now? Yeah, you can do that. It's not gonna hurt it at all. Actually, it'll help water. Well, your fertilizer is gonna be out at the drip line. So this is gonna be right at the trunk of the tree. Okay, so it won't affect either way.
And does neem oil work on these?
No, the tip bores, the neem oil is not gonna work on because they're inside the branches.
Okay, what works on those again?
The tree and shrub drench.
Okay.
What is your rank?
Her situation, she had some storm damage from our last November Thanksgiving, we had this great big snowstorm. She had some damage on her Alberta spruce. And she was wondering if she should just trim it up and make it a lollipop. I guess you could try it. I mean, if you have some severe damage like that, it'll never be whole again. It is damaged. So, I mean, you could try it, but
I would suggest you get in touch with Johnny's Tree and Landscape.
okay.
He's been in here and spoken a couple of times at our pruning class, and they're arborists. So I think this might be beyond our pay grade. But Johnny would be the best person to advise you.
Pinyon pines, there are two different varieties that we sell here. This is the double needle pinyon pine, two needle pinyon pine. This is the typical one that you see all around this area. This is the single needle pinyon pine. They're a little bit different, but I think this guy looks really, really cool. They'll both produce your pinions, the nuts. But it takes about 10 years of full growth. It does take a long time for them to actually produce. These will get scale, and I wish I had an example of that, but I don't. But scale basically kind of looks like a tick. Everybody's familiar with the little brown ticks that we get kind of sometimes in the summertime if we like to hike. They're just brown, sometimes they're gray, but they have that hard shell, and they attach themselves to either needles or branches. And then they just suck the life out of whatever they're stuck to. And scale can actually get on a number of things, not just pine trees. Last winter I actually found them on barberries, which I thought was really weird, but a lot of different trees and shrubs will have the scale. So the plant protector, tree and shrub, we do that for these as well. And again, it's do it now. This is the time they are intaking, so now is the time to do it. And it will last for 12 months, so it'll last till next spring.
Sorry, another question. Okay, I'm confused. There's a kind of I thought it might be scale, kind of the green stuff that gets on the trunks of trees. What, is that bad, good?
She's finding green stuff on trunks and trees. I'm guessing it's a lichen, which is it's basically a small fungus. It's not a bad fungus. It's not gonna hurt. It gets on rocks.
Looks kind of cool.
Yeah. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Good, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I
I've just lived here a year, and the house that I bought, has several different types of pines. I don't know which ones they are, but one in particular, I'm guessing the tree is 12, 13 years old, something like that. It started just losing a whole bunch of needles, but it's not brown. But you can tell it's thinned out, and I'm under the impression the needles don't grow back. Is that?
So what she has a pine tree that's just losing needles, and it sounds pretty natural to me. Most of your pine trees will do a needle drop in this fall, and it's pretty natural. They'll just turn brown and they'll fall off, and it's just making way for new growth to come on. So
I should have mentioned too, I do see a lot of sap running, so.
So if you're seeing sap, kind of look for holes and things like that, and that'll tell you. But if you're concerned, I would say protect it.
Another one, okay, I've got a commercial planning project. Which of the, I guess they're all conifers, and we're hoping to grow for shade. Which is the least messy?
Her question is which of the conifers are least messy? Typically your spruces and your Arizona cypress will be the least amount of mess. All your pines are going to have some needle drop. It's just kind of what they do.
We're talking about, where I live, it's total clay, so it's not valley. We just moved in 2 weeks ago, and the Wichita junipers, a lot of them, like even yesterday, I wanted them. How do I tell we're saying today, like, if I get too much water? How do I know?
So her question was on having clay soil and checking for water. Basically, I take a long piece of rebar, and rebar is that stuff that people use on concrete and stuff. It has those little curly cues, and I will pound it in about 10 inches, and I'll pull it back out. It will pull out soil with it, and I just see what it's like. If it's sticking to that rebar, don't touch it, don't water it, let it dry out. If it comes out clean, I would say you probably need to water. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Any other questions on pinyon pine scale? Okay. So I'm just going to go into a show and tell. If you have any questions, or if it's kind of off subject, I'll get with you. Or we have a lot of new people. Doug and Megan are here. They'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. So, okay. Okay, so these are two little pines. This is a Bosnian pine. You want me to hold it up?
What is it called?
A Bosnian pine.
Okay.
This guy is a smaller pine tree, like as big as your Austrian pine trees. He's going to be a little bit skinnier, so for a person that has a smaller yard, he's kind of the perfect size. It's going to be in that 15-foot range as far as width goes, probably 15 to 20 tall. This is a little Mugo pine. This one is actually Plumera. He is another 4x4, 5x5 in 10 years. So once he gets to the size that you want, you're going to just kind of start picking off the new growth candles, and that'll keep it from growing.
That is not a mugo?
It's a variety of Mugo, yeah.
Do they come dwarf size by chance?
All of them are kind of going to be in that 4x4 range as far as sites go.
behind us. You got it, you guys are the ones doing that.
This guy here is an Oregon green pine. He's kind of like the Bosnian in the aspect that about 10 to 15 feet wide and about 20 tall. So he's just kind of smaller. He has shorter needles, so he's a little bit different as far as looks go. A lot of them will actually have foliage from the bottom all the way to the top. They make great little Christmas trees.
I think I have that specific one in my yard, and what I'm seeing is the needles, like those top cluster up there, and then the stuff that's really close to the stem. I'm finding that that's falling off, and all I'm seeing is bare bark on it.
They are a little, it's kind of in their nature to have, they're a limb,
Like
they're,
that.
yeah, they have more branches showing, and that's kind of their characteristic.
And it's got a little bit of a goldish brown hue to it at the moment.
Okay, so hers has a goldish brown hue to it, so I would say, usually gold or brown says something about water. So either we need to water a little bit less or a little bit more. So I would check around your,
It's probably more because the drip system is on.
yeah. So in the wintertime, we should be watering twice a month. Every 2 weeks, your tree should be getting something. If we don't have any significant moisture. And we have been lucky, we have had a few systems in here, but we haven't had them
Space.
yeah, they're spaced out far enough where you should be watering your trees once in a while.
Okay.
Even your established trees, things that have been there that look more natural, all trees should be at least watered once a month. Deep water once a month. This is a Spartan juniper. And he is a great privacy screen. He gets in that about 4 to 6 feet wide and 10 to 12 feet tall. So he's a great one to cover a neighbor's window or a dish, or put a couple of them and it'll hide the whole RV. So great screening plant. There's another one that I didn't bring that has a more blue tone like this Vanderwolf. It's called the Wichita Blue Juniper. It gets in the same size, but you get that kind of a bluish red color.
Isn't this pretty slow growing up?
Junipers usually grow in that 6 to 8 inches a year. So yeah, a little bit slower. They're not going to jump by leaps and bounds.
We have some of those, and we're seeing sap on the bark. I think that's a critter.
So she's seeing sap on the bark. I would say take a look at it and see if you, sometimes if you kind of scrape that sap off carefully, so you don't damage the bark itself, but if there's a hole underneath that sap, I would say you need to protect it.
Is that brown on the top, is that just natural?
This is the winter color. A lot of the junipers would kind of have a purple tint to it in the wintertime. Kind of like the cactus, you'll see the Santa Rita cactus and have that really pretty purple color, if that's their winter color.
If you start dying and you get a big chunk of dead, do you prune it or is that stuff
If it's dead, prune, all the time prune.
even from the top trunk?
If you've got dead up on top, if you cut off this leader, you're not going to get a ton of upward growth until one of these decide to be the leader. Trees are pretty smart in the way that they'll kind of correct themselves. Some do it better than others, but you won't get a ton of growth on that top area. biggest tree we have. This is a Vanderbilt pine, and very, very drought tolerant. He's one that you don't mind playing with because he's so soft. He kind of has this silvery green foliage color. A nice size too, kind of gets in that 10 to 15 feet tall or wide, and then about 20 tall. Great tree, very, very drought tolerant. So if you were an overwaterer, this is probably not the tree for you. Because they'll go south really fast. So if you have one of these and you start seeing yellow, stop watering immediately.
Michelle.
This is kind of a unique tree. This is an incense cedar. And this one's a new one for me. We just brought it in about a month ago. Incense cedar. There's a really nice smell to them, but it is actually a cedar tree. Going to get in that 10 to 15 feet wide, and then, no, this one's the bigger one, sorry. This is about 20 feet wide and about 40 feet tall. So this is a really big tree. Yes, ma'am.
When you mentioned watering, if you have a drip system, should you still be doing the deep watering once a month?
Her question was about drip systems, and here's the thing about drip systems. You need to know how much water is actually coming out of your drip system. So check your emitters and see what size that you should have. If it's an older tree, I wouldn't even have it on a drip system. I would just take the hose out and let it run once a month. If it's a newer tree, once a week is basically all you need to water. Unless you're in your situation, you might need to water every 10 days. But deep watering means the bigger your trees are, the more emitters you have. So you don't log up the rest of your stuff. So if it's a good sized tree, you could have 4 or 5 emitters around that tree. And don't forget to move them out as the tree grows. I've been to so many houses where the emitters are right next to the trunk. That doesn't do any good. All you're doing is wetting that area up. Your feeder roots are at the drip system. So wherever your outermost branches are, that's where you feed, water your trees. This is
Yeah, you call those emitters?
emitters.
Oh, emitters.
It's IMM. Emitters. A lot of times they're etched on it. It'll say 0.05 or 5.0. It'll usually tell you what side. If not, get a gallon bucket, see how long it takes it to fill up. This is kind of a cute little dwarf tree. This is a Frank's Austrian pine. He's going to get about 8 feet tall and about 3 feet wide. So it's a cute little tree for a small area. And he is a derivative of the Austrian pine. Okay. While we're on junipers, this is a new variety that we brought in. This is Burley Blue. This is a ground cover juniper, but I just love the color on him. He's going to get about 2 to 3 foot tall and about 6 foot wide. So he's got this kind of bluish gray color, which I really like.
The show this morning, you were talking about aluminum sulfate for the bluish ones. Is that, again, adding more nutrients, or is it just what it answered?
Her question was, as she was listening to Ken's show this morning, and he was talking about aluminum sulfate to bring out color on trees and shrubs. And yeah, it is an additive. Sulfate or sulfur always helps enhance color, which is why we put it on blue spruces to bring out that blue color. We put it on hydrangeas to bring out the pinks and the blues. And sulfur, the thing about sulfur, our pH level is so high that sulfur helps lower that acidity level and helps neutralize it. So anytime you can add sulfur to the soil is a good thing. That's why our all-purpose has some in it, but if you're having color issues, definitely add it to it. I've got a couple more broadleaf evergreens that I'd like to talk about, and then I've got some really pretty stuff that I'm gonna go on to. So both of these are broadleaf evergreens. This is the Silver King euonymus, great for privacy. This guy's gonna get in that 6-8 foot tall range and about 3-4 foot wide. So he's great for a little bit smaller space if you're trying to hide an air conditioning unit or something like that. He also adds color because he has this variegated leaf. If you have a dark spot, you know, a little bit of color can go a long way to brighten up that area.
Again, it's a silver.
Silver King euonymus.
Does it stay that year round?
Yep.
Yes, sir. Something like that, you potted.
His question was, can you pot this guy? Yeah. I would start with the smaller one and make sure you have a pretty good sized pot, but yeah.
Does that require a lot of sun?
These usually require about at least 6 hours. They're kind of pretty versatile, so you know, if it is a little bit of shade spot, if it gets a little bit of sun, it's good.
How about deer and hallelujah?
This is a buffet for deer,
Okay.
so if you have
Move on.
deer, this is not the plant for you. Sorry, I should have mentioned that first. This, everybody's familiar with, but this is actually a brand new variety of red tip cotinia. Our vendor, which Jim Root, who was with Monrovia, he told us about this, so we brought it in. This is a red dynamo cotinia. And basically the difference between this and the Frasers is this one's going to be denser. So it's not going to get, you know, your branches aren't going to get as leggy as they tend to do with the Frasers. So this is going to be a thicker one. So we're really excited about this guy.
The same height and width?
Yeah, just a little bit smaller. He's not going to get 12 to 15 like Fraser's does. He's going to get in that 8 to 10. Okay, so we got a truck in yesterday, so we were really excited. These aren't well, I guess it can be evergreens. It kind of depends on the winter, but I have lavender in. When I opened this greenhouse this morning, oh my gosh, it smelled good. But I have 4 or 5 different varieties of lavender. And these are all the javelin variety, and they have these little pods which are really cool. But there are 3 different colors on this. It's a Spanish lavender.
The white one is Spanish lavender.
All 3 of these are Spanish lavender. This is a English lavender. This is Goodwin Creek. Has the silvery color, longer flowers.
And can those be transplanted? Well, what I did last year, I had one in a pot all year, and then I brought it in for the winter. And I wanted to go take it back out and plant it in the ground this year, but what do you think?
Her question was, can they transplant it? She had it all inside all winter long. Yeah, but I would wait because he's going to be like these guys. I would caution because they're tender, they just came in, they're gonna be a little bit sensitive to our colds. Hopefully, it looks like next week's gonna be pretty nice as far as nighttime temperatures, so we should be okay. But I would say if you see temperatures drop below 30, I just put a little cover over them just to protect them a little bit.
So I can't put that back in real dirt.
Yeah, you can, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, now I have one of those, it dies way back. Should I clip it or, so it's almost has to start from scratch every spring?
Yeah, and her question was, is her lavender dies back quite a bit, yeah, you do need to do a little trimming on them. They do die back.
So they can never really get too
yeah.
big here.
Yeah, it kind of depends on where you're at. I've seen some, and it depends on the winter, how cold we get, whether they die all the way back or just a little bit. Yes, ma'am.
What about deer? How do they like them?
Lavender are one of the good things about, they're very resistant to them because they do put out an odor, just like rosemary. Rosemary is a great evergreen that the deer won't mess with. Both of the lavender and the rosemary bloom twice a year. Usually you'll get a spring bloom and then you'll get a fall bloom as well. This is a upright rosemary, so this one's going to get about 4 or 5 foot tall eventually. These guys usually top out at the 2 foot range, and then you cut it back a little bit.
One experience I've had with deer, though, the babies don't know which is good or bad, so they sometimes eat the stuff that normally their moms and dads don't eat.
And you will get that with deer resistance, depending on, I mean, we have lists for javelina and deer down in the store, but you will find that when animals are hungry, it doesn't matter what's on the list. They will try anything because they're hungry. They're looking for moisture, water, just nutrients. So you're helping out.
One other question too. Okay, I lived in Bend, Oregon, which gets colder than here, and I could not rosemary would not grow.
Yeah.
But it grows here.
Yes.
I'm curious about that.
So our zone is zone 7. So we bring in special. There are varieties of rosemary that fill that whole gambit of zones. So we bring in 6 and 7, zone 6 and 7 here because we know they will survive.
Will the rosemary die off in the winter?
No, it will not. Rosemary does not die off in the winter.
It did up there.
Yeah, because
But it's a lower elevation, 5,500 and here
it's just a different area.
So it's
or
6,500
35.
feet high, is it still zone 7?
You might be a 6, and it might not grow well in that area at 6,500. Huh?
That rosemary is doing great.
You're, okay.
Yeah, great.
It's a trailing. That one might be a 5. I'd have to look at it. Yeah, it's all about that zone, whether they'll tolerate it or not. Okay. So these two are evergreens as well. This is a gopher plant, euphorbia. Really pretty, especially this time of year. It kind of looks prehistoric, I think. Has these jagged edges for its leaves, and then this is the flower on it. These guys can get big. Mine's about 4 foot wide right now, and it just kind of is saying ta-da, and it's just covered with these yellow sharp
What's your
shoots.
elevation, yours?
I'm in Dewey, and I'm about 4,600 feet. But these will grow anywhere here in Prescott, so they're zone 7. This is the color Bright Star Spanish Dagger. This one's really pretty. It's a thicker leaf with this yellow variegation. This tip of red is the winter color. So you'll notice that a lot of things have a winter color and they'll change a little bit in the wintertime and then they'll just kind of brighten up in the summer. This is a bright star. Spanish dagger.
It's a zone higher than 7, right?
It's a zone 7, yeah.
Higher and higher,
Yeah.
And how large do they get?
These guys get about 3 or 4 foot, yeah. About that.
Okay.
This is kind of cool. This is actually a wisteria. They just came off the truck yesterday. Gorgeous purple flowers that just kind of hang down, great for trellises and arbors and that type of thing. They prefer a little bit of afternoon shade to get started with, but my aunt has it all over her back fence and it's in full blast of sun. So I think once it gets established, it's okay. But a little bit of protection when it's young is good. And I brought this in just because it's pretty. This is an Oklahoma redbud. We actually have about 6 varieties of redbuds right now. They're all starting to do this. This is their flower color. These will open up and they'll just be bright pink flowers all over it. The thing with redbuds is they have a heart-shaped leaf, which is really pretty. Variety of sizes and widths. So if you have different sizes requirements, we'll probably have one for you. But a really pretty tree.
It's deciduous.
It is deciduous. Anything that looks like a stick right now is deciduous.
That's a good way to put it. How much is that one?
This one is $200. And it's in a 7-gallon bucket.
If you have a tree that isn't doing real well and it's fairly young, is it not correct to replant another plant in its place? Do you have to move it past where the old one was?
I'm sorry,
Okay.
say that again.
I have an old redbud tree, and I say old, it's only 3 years old. It's not doing real well.
Okay.
Would it be wise not to replant a new tree in the same hole? Or
Her question is whether she has a redwood that's not doing well. Should she replant in the same hole? I would say it kind of depends on what's going on with that tree. Why is it not doing well would be what I would ask. And we can talk about that in a little bit.
I've
Sure.
got some answers.
Yeah. I only have a few other things. Let's talk about sages real quick. Sages are another resistant plant. There are a whole skew of varieties of sages that we will bring in, from annual varieties to perennial varieties to shrubbish varieties. This is a meadow sage. This is the pink rose marble salvia. There's also a Maynite that's a really dark purple. They'll get probably about this tall, that are pretty resistant. However, I had some pack rats that ate mine all the way to the ground, but it came up again and it's beautiful. So I would say it's not resistant to pack rats, but bunnies and deer and all that stuff is usually resistant to. Blooms throughout the summer. Once it finishes blooming, you just deadhead it and new blooms will come out. This is an autumn sage. These are small shrubs. We also get a variety of these as well. I'm sorry, I put that tree in your way. Different colors, different sizes. This is the radio red, which is probably the brightest red that we get. There's also a red velvet that's very similar to this. Both of these are going to get in that 3x3 size range. The purple ignition, which is a bright purple autumn sage, kind of stays in that 2-foot range. The hot lips, which is red and white, which is kind of cool, is probably the tallest one I've seen, and it kind of tops out in that 4-foot range. Really pretty, always resistant. They are somewhat deciduous. They'll die back. You just prune it up, shape it up, and they'll be back ready to go next spring. I love this plant because it blooms from April till fall, November. They bloom all the time, and hummingbirds love this guy.
Why is it called autumn? Is it because it flowers in autumn?
I have no idea.
Well, I'm looking
Yeah.
for autumn flowers, but planting now, so I'll
Yeah.
talk to you later.
Yeah, this is, it just blooms the whole year. It doesn't stop. And lastly, I was just kind of excited because our vegetables and fruits started coming in. So I have a whole gambit of strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, grapes. Fruit trees are here. I have onions and peas, lettuce, kale. So if you're ready to plant that cool season garden, we're ready to go. How we do it? I actually ran over, didn't I? How about that? Yes, ma'am.
I have some manzanita tree or bush, whatever they are, and they look so nice and natural, but mine just have a few leaves at the top and then they're all there.
Her question was about manzanita and it's not doing so well. Manzanitas are kind of tough, and it's all about trying to get that water correctly. They're pretty native, so give it some time. I think you'll probably come out of it. Bring me a picture and I'll take a look at it for you and see if there's something else going on.
What is situations where they would die back? I've got one that keeps dying. I keep thinking the neighbor is spraying it through the fence, but yet it's right next to a gigantic big old bush.
I don't remember what it's called, but Lisa told me that there was a disease that was kind of going through it, and you can see it out in the wild, alongside the road, going down to Phoenix. There are parts of the shrubs that are just actually dying. Some of it's environmental. Some of it is, like I said, I can't remember what it was, but I can check for you if you want to know. So I'm going to just finish up. Thank you all for coming. Hope you all learned a little bit, and I'll be around to answer questions.